Welcome to the I Am One podcast, where we chat with Postpartum Support International volunteers to discuss why and how exactly they're supporting the mental health of new families. I'm your host, Danny Giddens. I'm a perinatal mental health certified advocate, a support group leader in my community, and a staff member here at PSI. Hearing one person's story on a podcast changed the trajectory of my life. It was the catalyst to me opening up about my undiagnosed postpartum anxiety, depression, and OCD, processing my own trauma, and realizing that advocacy is my life's work. I'm joined by my co-host, Emily Jankowski-Newton.
It's me. I'm the co-host,
Director of PSI's Climb Out of the Darkness program. We've discovered that there is strength in processing trauma and empowerment in sharing stories.
So that's what we're here to do. Our guests will take us on their journey from pregnancy or adoption through their low on to getting help and finding themselves again. And finally, how they're making a difference today. As I always say, it's the coolest club you didn't want to join because being a part of PSI means we went through something. And as a result, I've become connected to the coolest, kindest, most fun people that I would have otherwise never had the chance to meet.
One of the most important things that we've learned is that we're not alone. There's something powerful in knowing I am one of many. Whether you're already connected to the perinatal mental health world, looking for ways to support parents and families, or just want to hang out with us in your earbuds, we're so glad you tuned in.
And who knows, maybe we'll hear from you next.
On today's episode, we're chatting with Dr. Ellen Chance, a maternal mental health counselor who switched her focus from serving school-aged youth to mothers when she noticed huge gaps in perinatal mental health care. Ellen also volunteers her time as an online support group facilitator here at PSI. Today, we'll hear a story that I suspect is more common than we may think, because the reality is perinatal mood and anxiety disorders do not discriminate, and nobody is immune to them, even practitioners who know what to look for. We'll hear about how anxiety showed up for Ellen during pregnancy and postpartum, how difficult it felt to express how she was truly feeling. Spoiler alert, this is the first time Ellen is sharing so openly on a public platform. And finally, we'll hear why she's inspired to support pregnant and postpartum parents every day. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the I Am One podcast are the speaker's own. Tuning into this podcast is not a replacement for therapy or any other form of professional help. Our discussions cover personal stories of perinatal mood and anxiety disorders and may feel triggering to some listeners. Your number one priority is to take care of yourself. So if you are in need of help, please reach out to the PSI helpline by calling or texting HELP to 1-800-944-4773 for help in English and in Spanish. At PSI, we want you to know you are not alone, you are not to blame, and with help, you will be well. Okay, let's get on with the podcast. Well, Ellen, welcome to the podcast studio. We are so happy to be sitting here with you today to hear all about your lived experience. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Are you ready to just jump right in with our first question, Ellen?
Let's do it.
That's a trick question. We're going to do it anyway. No, just kidding. Okay, Ellen, if you would be so kind, could you please tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Ellen Chance. I live in Port St. Lucie, Florida. So it's a treasure coast, no complaints on that. It's beautiful. Professionally, I am a maternal mental health counselor. My private practice specializes in supporting the perinatal population. And that was as a result of the lived experience that I've shared with you guys about, and I know we're going to talk about today. Mm-hmm. Formerly a school counselor. So it was a bit of a pivot for me.
Yeah.
And one that I'm very happy I made. I'm also a counselor educator. So I train future mental health and school counselors, which is equally as fulfilling work.
Is that through your private practice or is that like at a university?
Yeah, at a university. I work for Capella University.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Look at you. Awesome. Well, I mean, it's very natural now. If you don't mind just telling us a little bit more about how perinatal mood and anxiety disorders have touched your life personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm a mother of two. My daughter is 5 years old. I have a son who's 2 years old. With my daughter, I struggled pretty significantly. Lots of signs of perinatal anxiety during pregnancy that maybe I wasn't so mindful of. I saw it more as like excitement, preoccupation with the pregnancy, all of the things.
Learning all the things.
Yeah, what's next? What can I anticipate? And I'll get into it more. But, I think now reflecting back, there were a lot of signs that I was incredibly anxious. So it was much more debilitating once I had my daughter in the postpartum period. So it was a little bit, I would frame it as like I was very preoccupied during pregnancy. And then in the postpartum period, it was almost immobilizing. Yeah. So it was definitely a huge transition, as any woman would experience becoming a mom for the first time. But it became noticeably challenging, and I was noticeably unhealthy in my fear that something terrible, something awful was going to happen.
Was it noticeable to you? Just you? Was it your family members, your friends, all of the above?
It was noticeable to me.
Okay.
I was I'm trying to think of how to articulate this. I was very prideful, I think, because I am a mental health professional. I was apprehensive to let people know I was struggling. And I had this internal struggle that I should be able to handle this. And it's so silly and it's totally irrational. And it goes against all of my training to say to myself, I should be able to get through this alone. It's completely against everything I know as a mental health clinician.
Right.
But when you're in that mindset, I think it's very easy to feel shame and feel apprehensive to truly let people in on what you're experiencing, because it can feel really dark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you had a lot of fear that something bad would happen. Were you afraid of things happening to you or to the baby? I find that there's an either or. There's not necessarily a lot of overlap for folks.
Right. No, I wasn't worried about myself one bit. It was a complete preoccupation with something bad happening to my daughter.
Yeah.
And as I said before, like looking back at pregnancy, I can vividly remember now, like first trimester, incessantly Googling the statistics of miscarriage. Right. And then I got to my second trimester and I felt that was like, okay, I don't have to worry so much about that. Now, what is there to worry about?
I should worry about gestational diabetes.
Yes, exactly. I remember I was on a trip for my brother's and my husband's birthday to Colorado. It was a skiing trip. I was pregnant, so I wasn't skiing. I did enjoy the spa.
Yes.
Nice.
But I remember that one of the baby apps had sent an update of, your baby's the size of this, and here's what you can expect at your next OB appointment. And it said, at your next appointment, you're going to be tested for strep B. And I went down this rabbit hole of Googling all that could potentially mean for the baby. And I was in this loop this whole trip about if I have strep B and the worst case scenario happens, it was always jumping to the worst case scenario and really just being on like a carousel of that. I couldn't get off.
Yeah.
Did other people on that skiing trip notice, or was it still?
It was definitely still internalized. Yeah. I will give credit to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was 6 weeks ahead of me in pregnancy.
Oh, fun.
It was fun. It was super fun, but she was so calm and confident. And I was just this big ball of anxiety. And yeah, I was a mess. And, I just remember feeling very fearful and just very preoccupied with all the what ifs, all of the negative things that could potentially happen. And even things that seem silly. It took me 20 weeks to pick out curtains. I remember being very focused on what blackout curtains I needed to get for the nursery, to the point that it was like...
Are you usually very decisive?
Yes. And it was like...
So this was out of character.
Yeah, it was totally out of character. Like I would never spend 20 weeks deciding on curtains and it wasn't just like I didn't make up my mind. It was like
Ellen.
I was really focusing on what curtains to buy.
Like you're going to nail the curtain decision.
Like it really,
these are going to be the best ones.
The crap out of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was,
Consumer Reports should come to you for the review. Like you've done more research than them.
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
So those were the signs in pregnancy that I didn't so much.
Mm-hmm. So was that your second trimester, the ski trip, or?
Yes, that was second, almost into third.
Third trimester was much of the same, or?
Well, with third, then it was the fear was surrounding the delivery. Something terrible was going to happen. And this was up until they had to induce me. I remember I was trying to convince my OB to give me a C-section because I was terrified that something was going to happen. And I've had surgeries before. To me, the surgical aspect seemed like a safer route. Like, and that's not necessarily rational at all. And it wasn't grounded in like any, medical science and statistics. It was just in my mind, something was going to happen.
Very real fear at that time.
Right. Right. And luckily I had a wonderful OB. He, said, Ellen, you're going to have a successful vaginal. I feel very strongly, and so he was coaching me. And that was great. And everything did go, it was long, but everything did go just fine.
Dang it.
Right. It was so long.
Oh no.
But everything went well.
It's the kind of thing that makes my uterus kind of twitch a little bit still. Even 13 years postpartum, I'm like, oh no, not a long labor.
Oh, so long.
Dang it.
So long.
I'm feeling for you, Ellen.
5 years later, you don't forget, right? It's like, I'm sure I never will. But.
Okay. So how did your experience with PMEDs transition postpartum?
I think it's safe to say it just went right from the prenatal to postnatal phase. It just continued to exacerbate. So trying to think of an example, like within the first week, we were having a lot of feeding issues with my daughter. I was trying to make breastfeeding work. Yeah. It really wasn't. She wasn't latching. She was labeled as a lazy eater. So my supply was just never really.
Such a terrible label to slap on a baby.
Who came up with that term?
Just got here, doesn't know what she's doing. Okay.
Lazy.
Still learning, not an expert yet.
Lazy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I was trying to seek the support of lactation consultants and, going through all of that. And I remember going to her first pediatrician appointment and the pediatrician was saying she's losing weight, right? She's not gaining. And I was so sleep deprived. She wasn't sleeping. She was waking me up and she was waking up every hour to eat because she would eat a little bit, fall asleep, and then wake back up. So it's not an exaggeration to say I was up every 1 to 2 hours the first few weeks. And
I was going to ask about your sleep, but now I know the answer.
Yeah, just exhausting. And then that was compounded with the pressures that I felt to make this breastfeeding work, even though it wasn't. And I remember breaking down in the pediatrician's office and just feeling like internalizing it as failure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than saying okay, how do we problem solve? There's a solution to this. I couldn't go to that solution focused mindset again, which is typically more of my mindset is finding solutions.
That's not working. Let's pivot.
Let's be flexible. And I was just lacking all of that. It was a lot of rigidity in my thinking and also just internalizing things not working out with the breastfeeding as my problem, something I was doing wrong and I know that that's common. I hear that all the time. So I know that that's not a rare mindset, but it's a challenging one.
Yeah. So in the end, did you decide that breastfeeding was not the right choice for you? How did that transition feel at the time? How does it feel now?
Yeah, so I ended up after a good month of trying to make it work. The pediatrician was like, you need to supplement with formula. She wasn't gaining weight and, she wasn't sleeping. So we began to supplement, and then I transitioned actually by the recommendation of a lactation consultant to exclusively pumping. And I did that for about 7 months.
Oh, wow.
Wow, you're a champ.
I mean, it was a journey. It was a journey.
Pumping is hard.
It is hard.
Objectively difficult.
And it adds so much to your schedule.
Yeah. And I didn't, at that time, it wasn't like the hands-free was as, available as it is now. I mean, even 5 years ago, I think there's been a lot of, almost 6 years ago now, there's been a lot of advancement with the hands-free. But I was literally hooked up to a wall for 7 months is kind of how I felt, just the ability to go anywhere, do things. It was always had to always be part of the plan.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a source of stress for me, but it wasn't the only one. I was extremely preoccupied with my daughter getting sick, very preoccupied with that. And that led to incessant hand washing, being really fearful about who I let around her. I know that probably was perceived by some family as me being a little restrictive, but it really, really made me anxious to bring her around a bunch of people. So, during all of this, there probably were signs I was struggling, but I never truly opened up about it. It came to a little bit of a break. Yeah. So when my daughter Harper was about a month old, we had 2 back-to-back hurricanes here in Florida. And and so we traveled up to my brother and my sister-in-law, who had a baby 6 weeks prior to me having a baby. And we stayed at their place in Central Florida, a little way away from the water, so to speak. And we were confined to the house. Again, my sister-in-law was calm, cool, collected. She just, from my perspective, was just embracing motherhood. And her son, my nephew, seemed so much more relaxed and content. Harper still was struggling eating. I was extremely sleep deprived. And I remember just getting to a point of complete exhaustion. And my sister-in-law, she's remarkable. She drew me a bath, turned off all the lights, and she's a really nice bath. She drew me a bath, lit candles, turned off all the lights. And she said, I don't want you to come out of this room. I want you to stay in this room. I want you to take a bath as long as you need. She's like, you need to take a break. And so I do look back at that and really
shout out to your sister-in-law. Oh my gosh, I've got like tears. I'm welling up.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, I don't know what I would have done, honestly.
So she could see.
She saw, but we didn't really have a direct conversation. She saw and she acted, but I never, in that moment, I didn't say, here's what I'm thinking. And I had some really dark thoughts that I couldn't turn off.
Like here's all the stuff that's actually rattling around in there. Yeah. That would have been real scary to say out loud.
Yeah. It's terrifying. I mean, honestly, this is the first time I'm opening up about this to anyone other than my very close network, family, friends.
We're so glad you're here.
Well, thank you for being here. This is a big deal.
Thank you. Thank you for creating this space. I think it's incredibly important.
So at this point, you still have not tried to call a doctor, was there a tipping point?
I never talked to my doctor. Never. Until my second pregnancy.
You too.
Yeah.
Okay, me too on that one.
Right?
I waited until the second. Yeah, second kid, and I was like, I still feel
Was it fear-based? If you said how you were really feeling?
It was fear. It was shame, inadequacy. I mean, it was a lot of things. It was just like I knew my thoughts were irrational and I just couldn't turn them off.
Yeah.
I also know what that is from a mental health perspective.
Yes.
And yet I said I should be able to handle this on my own. And that was silly.
In the moment, not one specific moment, in that period of time, you knew what was happening. I mean, you knew what to look for, but you kind of just minimized.
Yeah. I don't even know if I minimized it. I almost just felt like I should be doing a better job than this. And if I let people know what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling, then I'm actually accepting this as reality. I almost just wanted to wish it away. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like if I actually speak this out loud, if I actually tell people I'm struggling, then that means
it's real.
I think maybe that's what it was for me. And it was, little things that would just put me in a spiral. I remember the Today Show, a few weeks after I had my daughter, put out a story on a baby contracting herpes and passing away. And that sent me,
Today Show, stop that.
It was horrible. I mean, of course. And it was about awareness, the family was there. But that sent me down such a spiral, right? So it was like hearing things and even watching shows that I used to watch and enjoy, like Law and Order SVU. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I still can't to this day, honestly. I used to love that show. And
Sorry, Law and Order.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Olivia.
Not sorry.
Can't do it. But yeah, it was, things that that I really didn't have to worry about in my immediate present moment that just would really send me on a spiral. So I think because I was like, this is so irrational, I felt shame to even say, this is what's happening.
So you were aware in the moment that you weren't maybe thinking with full clarity.
No, yeah.
It's not like you just need to be mentally stronger. That's not it. That's not how this works.
No, it's not.
No one would tell a client that, like, no therapist would tell a client, like,
you should go through this alone.
Right.
Just try a little bit harder.
Have you tried not thinking about that? Just don't think about, why are you thinking about that?
Give it a whirl.
Not being anxious. It's like when you're having an argument with your partner and they're like, calm down. And you're like, wrong thing to say.
Valid.
So just guessing here, you were undiagnosed.
Undiagnosed, yeah.
And thinking back on all of the symptoms that you experienced, what would you say you experienced?
Certainly anxiety during pregnancy, anxiety in the postpartum period, but then it began to manifest into OCD. No question. Especially with compulsive thoughts that were completely intrusive.
Yeah. Compulsive thinking was my jam too.
Yeah. The worst kind of jam you could have.
Right.
Nastiest jam ever.
Nasty.
Don't recommend.
It's like it's being in a rocking chair. Like you're not going anywhere, but you sure have something to do.
Yeah.
Like I have thoughts.
Yes.
Over and over.
I know. And I was like, how do I turn this off? And I just couldn't. So second time around, of course, the concern would be it's going to happen again. But growth happened and I was willing to talk about it this time.
Hey, Ellen.
Right?
Nice.
Go me.
Yes.
But here's the kicker. Okay. So second time around, I'm getting to my 20-week scan. This pregnancy was much rougher in regards to like physical symptoms, getting sick, but mentally much better. And at the 20-week scan, I was meeting with a high-risk OB and trying to be proactive. I said, I really struggled my first go around. I want to be proactive this time. I think I would be great to get established with somebody now, just to be proactive. And
a therapist?
Yeah.
Okay.
And at this time, I'm a school counselor, right? I'm not in the perinatal world yet. And I said, do you have anyone you can refer me to? Nobody. Didn't offer any resources, didn't have any local clinicians to recommend, certainly didn't tell me about PSI. So
come on,
people.
Yeah. So that honestly was a pivotal moment for me because I said, this is terrible. Here I am finally opening up for the first time to a professional. And I'm pretty much right where I was before I opened up about it. I don't know where to turn. I don't know what to do. And so that professionally for me was a pivotal moment because I said, I'm going to do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boom.
I said, I'm going to do this. And I, was pursuing my PhD. I was with my second, I was counselor educator. And after having my son, I was ready to pursue. And I didn't struggle with my son. So I want to share that because The concern
Yeah.
was it's going to be exactly the same. And I was prepping myself for that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I didn't have any symptoms of
Yay.
postpartum anxiety, OCD behaviors, thoughts.
Wait a minute. Your son is 2?
He'll be 3. Yeah, he's 2. He's a little over 2.5.
So he was born during the pandemic.
Yep.
And you did not have.
Nope. And I got the flu when he was 2 weeks old. I got the flu. And I will admit.
Oh, God, that must have been no fun.
No, it was no fun. And I was very worried and I kept my space. But if that had happened to me with my daughter, I don't even want to imagine. But I would have went off the deep end.
Yeah, you would have like melted into a puddle.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. I mean, I was scared and it was terrible, but I coped with it. Like it didn't send me in a spiral. I wasn't having irrational thoughts or fears. It was just so different. And I like to share that because I think it drives home how each pregnancy and each postpartum period is so different.
For sure.
And just because you struggled once doesn't mean you're going to struggle again. And it does get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, wow. I'm really glad that you had a different experience the second time around.
Me too.
It wasn't a repeat, not a round 2.
Right.
I'm curious about the fact that you weren't vocal with how you were feeling after your first was born. What helped you get through? Did you have friends? Were there things that you did daily, like get out of the house? What kind of things helped you?
I did try to get out and go for walks, being outside, walking. Once I was able to exercise again, I think that was definitely a helpful outlet for me.
Yep.
I think too, for me, it improved a lot when I went back to work.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was less hyper-focused on my daughter. I felt intellectually like my mind was being stimulated otherwise.
Yeah, right.
So that I do think was a bit of a transition point for me when I returned to work.
Yeah.
And at that time I was a school counselor. Now, with that being said, what I did find myself struggling with a bit at work was being able to separate myself and my view as a mother, that mother lens, from some of the trauma that my students were experiencing. So that,
oh, wow. Yeah.
That was a little challenging to navigate at first, especially because some of my compulsive thinking was things that were happening to the children I was serving. So that made it challenging.
Tricky.
But it was a bit of an improvement. And then there were some factors that were a bit of a stressor for me. But so yeah, I think walking, being engaged in something that was intellectually stimulating, challenging. Again, and then being around colleagues and just, feeling a different purpose. And I hate to say that because my purpose as a mother, that is more important to me than anything. But at the same time, in that period, it was so hard for me. It was so hard to be like, I'm enjoying this because I wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it was the balance that you needed. Like if you were... I'm a mom. My job is raise these people, keep them safe, do all the things. If there's no balance to that, then your whole sense of self and your whole being is invested in that one outcome working out real well, right? Where if you can have something else for yourself, then there are other things that also you can, measure your adequacy as a person against. Not that any of us should be doing that at all, ever.
Yeah, but so much changes.
But we do, right?
Yeah.
We're always looking at ourselves and going like, how am I doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So to go from a career where you've experienced some achievement, you are supporting lots of other people, to go, wow, I did not shower today and I've done nothing but changed diapers and I
have
pump
400 times
breast milk all over myself. It is who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? So to be able to feel like yourself a little bit at work or, around your colleagues, like you said, or doing some things that you liked to do before, getting outside and exercising and things like that, that probably sounds like it was really helpful to you.
It was very helpful. It was very helpful. Yeah. I think, I continued to struggle after that, but you find that some things help alleviate right? They help alleviate some of the symptoms. So it's not to say they completely went away.
Yeah, totally.
But it definitely significantly improved.
Yay. So that was after your first. After your second, you were home for a bit and then you transitioned back to work. What did it look like? Like how soon before you started pursuing a career change?
When did you make your big pivot?
Tell us more.
So when I returned to work with my son, as I said, I'm a counselor educator, mostly work from home, travel once a quarter, absolutely love it. And in that work, right, training future mental health counselors, training future school counselors, I felt super fulfilled, but I kept going back to that conversation I had with that high risk OB, right? And then other conversations started to happen with women in my life, best friends, sisters, where it was just so glaringly apparent that this was an underserved population. It really is, and it continues to be. I think it's getting a lot better. And I think a lot of the work you're doing is a reason for that. PSI. I mean, it's amazing. I wish I would have known about PSI. I really, really wish I would have.
Same.
But I do now. And now now I volunteer for them. And and I love it. It's such rewarding work and a way to give back and serve. And so anyway, long story short, there were some subsequent conversations. So it was like the conversation with the high risk OB. It was a friend who had a perinatal loss and left a DNC procedure with no resources. Her account was, no one even said, "Are you doing okay? How are you?"
My jaw is on the floor.
Right. Yeah. But they did ask how they intended to pay. They did ask that.
Oh, good.
Oh, so that was covered.
There's that.
But it was things like this that were, brought to my awareness that just kind of put a fire under me.
I was just going to say, it's just infuriating.
Yeah. It is. And it's sad. And so it was things like that really kind of led me down this path. I got involved with PSI, and that really opened my eyes to a lot of the pathways for mental health clinicians to serve this population. So received the PSI trainings in advanced perinatal mental health. And since then have started a private practice and work with this population and women and mothers in general. But I can't even tell you how much this work means to me. And I just hope that at least even in my immediate community, my goal is that if a woman goes to a high risk doctor and says, "I need mental health support," that they're not going to say, "I have no one to offer you."
Yes.
That is my hope.
Yes.
And then, big dreams would be, let's start training medical professionals. Let's start training the surgery sites and employees that are working with people who are going through perinatal loss, grief, right? And how can we make sure that they have the resources to provide these women and families, and also maybe some empathy training.
Yeah. There's a question to ask before, how are you going to pay?
Yeah. Exactly.
You're doing the important work. You're making a difference, Ellen.
As are you, ladies.
Now people have your name. They're like, "Oh, I know who you should call."
I hope so.
You need to call Ellen.
I hope so.
So at what point did you get involved volunteering with PSI?
So I started offering support groups. So I've been doing the pregnancy mood support groups. And after that, it was because of that, actually, that I became more aware of the pathways to getting certified and serving this population. So
you got on that slippery slope and just slid all the way to certified. Nice.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So you were volunteering as a support group leader, the virtual support groups.
Yes. Yep.
That is cool. And is that the only way that you have been a volunteer at PSI, or have you volunteered in another?
That's the only way.
Awesome. Cool.
Is it your favorite?
I do love it.
Have you heard of Climb Out of the Darkness? I'm just kidding.
I have some questions. There's not like a lot of climbing in Florida. So I don't know. How do we?
It's cool.
No mountains required.
No mountains required. Okay. Not a prerequisite.
Yeah, we'll talk later. We'll talk later.
We've already done a lot of climbing to get out of that black hole of bad moodness that we've all dealt with. We don't need any more mountains.
No
Something
mountains
flat
required.
and paved would be great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We can talk more later.
Let's chat.
So at the point in time that you were volunteering, that you started volunteering as a support group leader, was that when there were like a few support groups? I mean, at one point, I know there were like 4 total.
Oh, no.
I think Talia was sharing on her podcast episode.
No, that definitely wasn't the case. Megan, who was the first person I talked to when I reached out about volunteering, she's remarkable. I mean, they all are, but
shout out to Megan.
Yeah, Megan. Yes. Hashtag Megan.
Yeah, hashtag Megan. We love Megan. I mean, the work that they have all done is remarkable. So no, I mean, there were tons of groups going on. And what's so exciting is like more and more keep being added for various populations.
Oh, yeah.
So it's remarkable. And I think like going back to what I said, I wish I would have known that it was a resource, and it is now a resource that I share with every single pregnant person I cross on the street. It's probably a little much.
I know. I randomly walk up to pregnant people and I'm like, hi, here's some resources. And they're like, who are you? It's fine. Just take these.
Well, I'm blown away by the number of support groups that are available, like over 35 per week or something wild like that. So anyway, we will drop a link in the show notes to like how to become a support group leader, to volunteer your time, also how to attend a support group.
Yes.
So we'll drop both links there.
Absolutely. And it's important to point out, like, yes, I'm a professional in this field, but when I show up to those groups, I'm a peer.
Yeah, you've been there.
Right. And that's what's great is anybody who's been through this can become a facilitator and a volunteer. And it's amazing. And I think it's helpful for me as someone who didn't seek help to now be giving back and doing this. It's a little bit of healing for me, if I'm being honest.
Absolutely.
That's nice.
You are not the first support group leader that has shared that.
Yeah.
So you're holding the space that you really probably could have used, right?
Absolutely.
Anyway, yay. Go support groups. Yay. Go Ellen. Way to be supporting people.
Thank you.
We're so happy that you're part of PSI.
Thank you.
We're one big happy family. I am ready for the 4th trimester round.
Yes, we put it to a vote recently.
Okay.
We asked the people, the podcast listeners out there, what do you think that we should call the lightning round? Because it is in no way, shape, or form lightning-y. It is not fast. It is not rapid fire.
Because your questions are hard.
Misnamed. They're not hard. They're not hard.
Okay, sure.
Okay, fine. Okay.
I'm not intimidated at all.
Okay, good.
Ellen has consented to the 4th trimester round.
Yes.
First question. Besides this one, what's your favorite podcast?
Gosh, there's a mindful podcast that I love.
Ooh, I'm listening. You have my attention.
Yeah.
Writing that down.
Called Mindful.
Cool.
Dropping the ball. Not giving cred to whoever hosts it, but it's a good one.
Mindful podcast. So what's it like?
Well, it talks about different mental health topics, but it really embraces how to bring mindfulness-based practice just into daily life as a way of coping with different mental health disorders, but also just stress, right? Everyday life, everything we're balancing as humans. So I find it helpful. I do a lot of mindfulness-based stuff in my work. So it helps me both personally and professionally.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, that's going on my list for sure.
That is. Okay, the next question is, do you prefer a book in your ear or a book in your hand?
In my hand.
Another one!
In my hand, for sure.
I want to poll the audience again when their kids are older and see if it changes.
I mean, I think for my ability to be able to consume a book, audio would probably make more sense, but I get lost in the physical handheld book.
Yeah. And sometimes you just want to get lost.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
I'll allow it.
So is there something specific that you are reading right now?
Okay.
Or recently?
So Confessions, I read mostly for work. So like everything is like.
That's allowed.
I mean, I could pull books right now. I have a stack right here, right? So like The Art of Holding, right?
Oh.
Good Moms Have Scary Thoughts.
Oh, yeah. That's a fan fave.
We all know that one.
I love that one because You can read a little bit at a time. There are pictures.
And it's pretty. It's a nice desk book.
Yes.
So that's the reality is a lot of my books are about perinatal mental health.
Yeah.
But I did read for the first time in a long time for more pleasure. And It Ends With Us.
Oh.
Have you all read that?
No.
Not
What's
yet.
the genre?
It's fiction, definitely has, a lot of applicability to the mental health profession too, go figure.
Okay, we're about it. It's okay.
Yeah. But it's a mix of romance, drama, some, mental health topics intertwined. It's really good.
Great. Well, I'm going to check that out. I have purchased several audiobooks and we've had many Amazon orders arriving on our doorstep since starting this podcast. I'm like, that's an excellent idea. I'm writing that one down.
Now you got to find the time.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Too many books, so little time.
So little time.
Ellen, what is your go-to for a quick mental break?
How quick we talking?
You decide.
It could be not quick. It's okay. Just a mental break. Yeah.
Definitely some form of exercise.
Yeah.
For sure. So whether it be yoga, I prefer, so I'm obsessed with my Peloton.
I have one too.
Oh my, okay, yes. We need to follow each other.
Okay.
Come on, Emily.
There you go. Yeah.
No, I mean, you want to talk about like something changing your mental health. And like, I probably, since I'm on a podcast, I should probably say like, this is not an affiliate sponsored opinion.
Yeah. I mean, if Peloton wants to sponsor us, I have to tell you though.
Peloton wants to send me one. That's the only way I'm getting one. My husband is very thrifty.
It's a game changer for me.
We actually got it for my husband because he's more of a spinner,
okay.
It's like low impact for his knees, and he's always liked biking, and it wasn't for me. I use it way more than him now.
I love it. They have great content, and it's almost like you have like little built-in like wellness coaches, right? Like they're always like talking in your ear and sending positive affirmation.
Every once in a while, I'm kind of like, I wonder if I should do like a 5 or 10 minute stretch or something and just do that throughout the day. Or they have like meditations and stuff.
They have meditations.
They do. You can do it on a treadmill too, E. I can send you, you can try it for like a week or something. You can share it.
60
you can
days.
do it on the treadmill. 60 days?
Free pass. Yeah, I mean,
that's it. We're calling Peloton.
It's it's like a 60-day, but it's not for the bike. It's like just for their app, which they have a ton of content: Pilates, yoga, bar, high intensity, different strength circuits. Amazing stuff.
Nice.
I should be their spokesperson, honestly.
You should. This totally sounds like they've paid us. They have not.
I have not.
For me, moving my body, I'm with you. Like moving my body is a great way for me to like get out of my way, get out of my head. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes Emily can even tell that I have not moved in a while. And she's like, what's your plan today? For like,
when are you going to exercise?
When are you going to Peloton?
You are harshing my vibe right now.
Yeah.
Like,
those endorphins are real.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite parenting hack that you could share with our people?
Sure.
Okay.
This is one that has really worked for me.
Okay.
Just add water.
Oh.
Just add water. Right? So if they're in a funky mood, if you're feeling dysregulated, let them play in the shower, let them play in the sink, go to the beach, just add water. And obviously I'm in Florida. I have the luxury of just going to the beach, but, but no, there's something to be said. Someone told me that and I can't remember who it was, but just add water. And I think that really helped me my first year of motherhood, because it did seem like my daughter was just so much more peaceful and regulated when she was getting a bubble bath or, playing in her water table or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that on a sticky note. I like to put some sticky notes around my workspace if I need to remember something really important.
Yeah,
because I need to remember to drink water during the day, and just add water will do the trick.
Yes.
If I'm staring at it. So
well, that method is true for us too, if we're feeling dysregulated as adults.
Oh, yeah.
Just
That's
add
kind of,
water.
like that's on my list of, okay, I don't feel like everything's going great. And it's like, you've got this checklist of, am I sleeping well? Am I eating well? Am I, whatever. Have I gotten outside today? Have I moved my body? Have I had a dang sip of water, or has it been 3 cups of coffee? Let's assess. Right? Just add water. I love it. Yes. Thank you for that.
Okay, that ties into my 4th trimester round. I had to think about the title of
what's
this
round called?
Where are we? Okay, so how do you take your water?
That's a new question. That was not on the list.
That was not what I was expecting. So, okay, I take it with a ton of ice.
Oh.
And in a big tumbler that stays
very cold. Flavor, no flavor.
I mean, if I had a preference, maybe some fresh lemon in there, but I'm not. I'm not buying fresh lemon on the regular, unfortunately. But
you live in Florida. Why not?
That's a good question. I really like it too. Maybe that's something.
We need to send Ellen a lemon tree. Just kidding. We can't afford it. But if we were bigger, then we would send you a lemon tree.
I don't know. I'm going to start buying lemon.
I have packets of lemon.
Does it taste artificial though? Because I can't.
No. They've taken lemon juice and dehydrated it until it has become powder.
Interesting. Huh.
It is real lemon.
I've never heard of
that.
That's it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just like, well, cool. I'm not fact
real
checking you.
Lemon.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Okay, I think we're coming to a close here, Ellen.
Okay.
What is one way that you will show yourself some radical love today?
Radical love. Wow. So my family is in town from Connecticut, and that includes my sister and my niece and my 2 nephews. So I think just immersing myself with them today, will fill me up. That social support.
Yeah.
Being around people you love.
Yeah, that fills your bucket.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yay. Great. Well, I think we've done it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. If anybody would like to get a hold of you, is there a special way that we can make that happen?
Yeah.
Are you on the internet? Do you have an email address?
I'm on the work.
No pressure at all
have
to
the
share.
internet.
You can find me on the World Wide Web.
Yes. Oh, your practice, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Especially for folks listening in Florida.
Absolutely. Yeah. I serve all of Florida virtually, which is awesome. And my private practice is located in Stuart, Florida. So my practice is wholecounselingandwellness.com. You can find me on Instagram at whole, WHOLE.counseling, or also on Instagram at Dr. Ellen Chance.
Great. We'll drop that in the show notes because we're fancy.
Cool.
And we can do that. Yeah.
We have show notes.
We have show notes. We do. Look at us. Well, Ellen, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing so much about your personal experience. We are honored that you came on here and shared for the first time on a podcast with us.
Thank you. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
So happy that you were here.
Thanks for tuning in to the I Am One podcast. Check out today's show notes where we'll drop links to all the important things that we mentioned in this episode. Please consider sharing about our show on social media and following and rating our show wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. It only takes a minute of your time and, well, that'll help with our collective mission of bringing resources and local support to folks worldwide. From everyone here at PSI, thanks again for listening.